Good morning. Happy Monday. Today is Psalm 74 day. And if you have not read the chapter of the day, Psalm 74, why don't you pause this recording? Give yourself a minute to read the word, pray before you do, ask the Lord to speak to you through his word today, and then come back here and let's share together how the Lord highlighted his word to us and through us today. And you know what? When I read the word, I don't always have a response to it right away. Often I sit with the word. Often the word sits with me throughout the day. And as things happen in my day, all of a sudden I realize how the Lord was equipping me already from first thing this morning, reminding me of his character, reminding me of faithfulness and how important faithfulness is, reminding me just how hard being a part of earth, being a part of the world this side of heaven is before the Lord calls us home. And so he's just so faithful through his word. But before we jump into today, I want to make sure you've read the chapter. So go take a minute to do that and then jump right back here with us. All right. So today we're going to get started very right away, right from the very beginning, basically. We are going to get into it, if you will. I don't know if you're an emotional person. I can be a very emotional person. And if you would have told me even 2 years ago, Cami, you have big feelings, I'd have been like, no, I don't. Because Cami was really good at hiding big feelings. Cami was really good at uh, hiding feelings because she thought feelings were weakness. Having big feelings was weakness. No, having big feelings aren't weakness. Having big feelings is just a characteristic of how God made you. He didn't make us all to have big feelings. And having feelings or not having feelings doesn't make us more feminine or weak or strong. It just is how God created us. And he created each one of us differently. So as we jump in to Psalm 74, I just wanted to preface what the Lord showed me this morning as I climbed into his word. Right in verse 1, he says, Are you real? The author, which is Asaph, he's writing the poem, and I believe he was like a musical director at the time. He says, Are you really going to leave us, God? Would you turn your back on us, rejecting your people? Now, when I hear that, I don't hear, Are you really going to leave us, God? Would you turn your back on us, rejecting your people? No, I hear, Are you really going to leave us, God? Are you the kind of God that will turn your back, rejecting your people? Almost like this crying out, this massive emotional reaction to whatever it is that they're going through. And immediately the Cami who has worked through a lot of things in her life was like, yeah, get it out, get it out. When I used to read Psalms and I would hear David sharing his big emotions, I'd be like, how is this man considered a man after God's own heart? He sounds like a whiner to me and a little bit bipolar. One day he's praising the Lord, the next day he's like, oh my gosh, God, where have you gone? And why are all my enemies chasing me? Where are you? It's just like, I can't handle all the emotions. And it was definitely looking down on David from like a position of weakness rather than a position of what is David modeling here for me? Well, first of all, in order to get those big feelings out, and guess what? No matter how emotional we may or may not be, we all have big feelings. It's what we do with those feelings that matter. And for those of us that are more expressive of our feelings, it's even more important that we get those feelings out because they have to go somewhere. And you can't heal a feeling that you don't feel. You can't switch a perspective that you aren't recognizing you're having. And right here in the beginning of Psalm 74, the perspective is possibly one of doubt and frustration. Where are you, Lord? Would you really turn your back on us, rejecting your very own people? And so the first note I wrote for myself is, yes, Cami, never forget to get it out. If the destructive thought is there, when you feel it, you can heal it and you can correct it. You have to get out what is in. And often what is coming out of us is a reflection of what's in us deeper. And so a great little way to follow, kind of like, if you see a weed growing up in your garden, I'm pointing towards my flower bed right here. When you see a weed growing in your garden, you don't just rip off the green part that you can see, you pull down the weed deep in so you can pull it out and uproot it. And so often these feelings come from a root that we may not see. And so there is just power in going deep and saying, where did this thought come from? But in order to even deal with a thought, you have to recognize a thought. In order to heal a feeling, you have to feel a feeling. And I love that we're modeled right here in the beginning of chapter 74, someone feeling like, where are you, Lord? Where are you? Why can't I see you? Where are you? Have you abandoned us? Have you left us? Are you somebody that would abandon your people? Because the God that I believe I know wouldn't abandon his people. And I got to tell you, oftentimes it's in even stating it out loud, journaling it, or sharing it with a friend that all of a sudden my ears hear what my mouth is saying, and the Holy Spirit reminds me of who God is. The Holy Spirit is like, you do know this God that you're wondering if he's going to leave you or if he's going to abandon you is the same God who owns the day and night. This is what it says in verses 16 and 17. That same God owns the day and the night. He tells the sun when to shine and the moon when to glow. That is your creator. The four corners of the earth were formed by his hands, and every changing season owes its beauty to him. What a perspective shift for me today. That is my God. That's my King. That's who loves me. And he is certainly not going to leave me. And I might feel alone right now, but guess what? He has not left me. He has not forsaken me. He is not turning his back on me, and he certainly isn't rejecting me. But on this side of heaven, friend, I am reminding you because it is reminding me this side of heaven, there will be trials and there will be hardship and things are going to be painful. Part of that is living in a fallen world, but it's also in a free world. Because how would we really be able to love the Lord if he forced us to love him? Is that love? No, that's not love. And part of him not forcing himself upon us is giving us free will. That is the gift to choose. But part of that free will comes with, that's right, human decisions and human flaws. And as much as he can give us guidelines like the Ten Commandment on how to live and how to live loved, one is who is as loved as much as we are, that doesn't mean we always walk out of that kind of posture. But when we are feeling down and when we are feeling low and when we are questioning everything, y'all, the best place to take that is to the Lord. It's to get it out, get it out on paper, process it out loud. This is why they call Psalms laments. It's a way in which to get out of us the things that don't belong in us. And it's okay to wrestle. God is big enough to handle our wrestling. And if we're going to wrestle, do you think he wants us wrestling with someone that's going to fill us with truth or someone who's going to fill us with lies? He wants us to be wrestling with things in his truth, in his light, in relationship with him, with people who follow him and profess to have faith in him, not in places where they don't. And so the enemy likes to trick us and he likes to tell us things like if we are vocal about our feelings, that makes us weak. So we better hide our feelings. And the more we hide our feelings or the way that we're thinking, the more isolated we can feel and the more sad we can become. And then guess what? Then the enemy can really start influencing us in negative ways. And so, listen, as I read Psalm 74, what a reminder, a lot of my own progress and growth, but also how the Lord is modeling for us all through Psalms a man that he said was a man after my heart. That man after my heart has big feelings. He has days where he remembers who I am, the Lord, who he is, and he has days where he is struggling to remember because his circumstances don't line up with what he knows to be true up here. But we live in a fallen world, and there's going to be a lot of times self-inflicted problems we're walking through, but also problems that are no fault of our own, but because we live in this world. And so other people are making mistakes, and we have to deal with the consequences of those mistakes. Oftentimes, not just the consequences of our own mistakes. It's part of living in this fallen world. But the Lord is giving us a, a recipe to follow, a prescription on how to heal and how to get back in the right headspace when we are feeling these ways, when we have lost sight of truth, or when we are walking a little bit strayed. Does that make sense? It makes me think of what was talked about yesterday in Psalm 73 where right at the very beginning, again, the same writer, Asaph, says, no one can deny it. God is really good to Israel. And I replaced it and said, no one can deny it. God is really good to Cami. Cami cannot deny it. God is really good to Cami. Yes, I've experienced divorce. Yes, I've walked alongside children from foster care, adoption. Yes, I have seen, I've walked through miscarriage. I have a sister who's gone through infertility, friends that have gone through infertility, friends through divorce. Listen, you name it. I've seen a lot of really hard things. I've walked through a lot of really hard things. But you know what? If we're not careful, if we lose sight of how good God is to us, we can be almost overwhelmed with the hardships of life. And it's funny because in 73 he was questioning, am I foolish to follow the Lord? Am I foolish to play by the rules and live a life that's pure? Because it feels like a lot of suffering, and I bet you've wondered that too. I know I have. But in spite of all of what we have seen and what we have walked through, one thing is true, and it says this in Psalm 73, and I just want to remind us now because it goes so well with what we're talking about in Psalm 74. The Lord comforts us with his counsel. He draws us close. He leads us with wisdom. And when we follow the Lord, whether we're walking through high seasons or low seasons, we're never going to walk alone, friends. We're never going to walk alone. It's in his light and his truth that we get to walk when we stay close to him, no matter what we're walking through. And I heard a mentor in business once say, he has he has had a lot of problems with money and he's had a lot of problems without money, and he'd rather have money every day of the week. And the minute he said that, I thought to myself, you know, I've walked through a lot of problems in my short little lifetime with the Lord, and I'm so thankful I have him every step of the way, because I can't imagine walking through hard times without him. And so even when the moment overwhelms us and we wonder if he's there, if he abandons us, if he's going to leave us, get that out, express that in places where you're surrounded with truth and love, real love, the love of Christ. That's to God, to people that are followers of him. Those are safe places. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that proclaim to be Christians that may not give us, but I'm telling you, the perfect person to take our hurts, our confusions, our questions is the Lord, and in prayer. And it's okay to do it unfiltered, no judgment, because he's the safest place that we can do it. And we can't heal it if we can't feel it. We can't recognize it if we don't state it. And that's all part of the healing and getting the right perspective. All right, I love it. Psalm 74 today, and we'll be reading Psalm 75 tomorrow. I'll see you soon.